everyone, welcome to Unearth with Shelly Hughes. I'm Shelly Hughes. I have a big announcement today. I'm really excited to talk about it. It is a corporate social responsibility initiative that Nolia Roots is taking over, and it's all about our youth, especially in some underprivileged areas where I'm from, the Philadelphia region, and I want to see if anyone would like to be involved in it because it's definitely something that I have a passion for. This is Unearth. We usually like to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of business ownership and entrepreneurship. We really go into the wins, the losses, the challenges, and most importantly, lessons learned about what it takes to be a passionate, profitable entrepreneur. Today, though, I'm throwing in a plug. I have had this idea. Really, I thought it was going to be a nonprofit in the beginning, but I've had this idea for a youth entrepreneurship mentor program for years now. And I've worked with, I've worked with youth in the past, and I think just ultimately down in my gut, supporting kids and helping kids have brighter futures has just been such a driving force of mine with everything that I do. A lot of the pro bono work that we do, or it's even global. We did some pro bono work for a nonprofit called Cato, whom I love, and I can definitely put on any of our socials and shout them out. But for example, they support women and children in war-torn West Africa, and they support and not just the education, but the health and kind of that hierarchy of needs of what these kids need coming from where they come from. So we have a huge background, and I have a big background in giving back to a lot of those organizations that are supporting youth and their futures, especially if they come from an area or a situation that isn't as, abundant or affluent as, what you and I are typically used to. But I'm starting this program in September. It's called One Day. And One Day really came from a combination of two of my passions. One, it came from helping youth really all over the world, like I said, have those brighter futures. And two, really supporting the economic growth in businesses that run our country every day. And those are the small businesses, and mainly the businesses that are making our world 1% better every single day. So I have kind of these two passions, and I put them together. And what One Day is a 9-month youth entrepreneurship mentor program that equips kids and inspires kids, especially in areas that may not have the most funding for their schools or may not have the best curriculum to introduce these kids to something like business ownership, leadership, entrepreneurship, is related somehow with youth, whether it's in the United States, and it really equips them to feel like business ownership is an option for them in the future. When I was in school, we had like one entrepreneurship class, but to be completely honest, it wasn't that promoted. And really, it was mainly the guys that decided to enroll in that. It was an elective, I think. But what I've seen and what's been affirmed in some books like Dan Martell's is that, and I've worked with these kids in the past, right? I've worked with many different organizations that support these underprivileged youth. And what I've found, and I was like, oh man, these guys would be really great as business leaders. But why, right? What is it about these kids specifically that I've met in the past that I'm like, they need to know about business ownership. They need to know the basics. They need to know that they don't have to go to college for 4 or 6 years, get in a huge amount of debt, and then, work at a job that they don't really love and then retire when they're old and die, right? Because I think that makes kids not super excited about college or super excited about their future. But and I talk to business owners every single day, right? And what I find is business owners are so good at handling stress. They're so good at managing chaos. And what Dan Martell says in his book, Buy Back Your Time, is that business owners and entrepreneurs are addicted to chaos. And I think that's a really interesting way of putting it, but I see the exact same thing in the people that I talk to, especially those that may have had chaotic upbringings. They are so primed to be able to deal with the stress of the everyday life of an entrepreneur. And so I see that as a fact that I notice every single day when I'm talking to, really successful business owners. I read about it, and it's really affirming to me that those ideas are kind of accurate. And then I see, some of these high schools that unfortunately may not have the curriculum to foster that and introduce that concept to some of these kids. I think our school system today is really, really good at making employees. I think our school system today teaches kids how to sit down, shut up, and do their work, right? And, you know, we need employees. As business leaders, we need employees. Employees are, our team is everything to us, right? Um, so I'm not saying that's a terrible thing, but I see a huge gap in our education system and of introducing business ownership and business development to our youth. And I think that is, I think the people who do start to open businesses, they just kind of fall into it, or maybe their parents have owned businesses. But I think these kids are just so primed because of their experience and because of their background to be such good business owners that I felt this vision and this draw to fill in that gap of, okay, here's this kid who their experience and their youth is just making them so ideal to have this situation. And and entrepreneurship is really interesting. It you feel like you have so much control. When I talk to entrepreneurs, I'm like, why'd you start this? And usually the word is control. Usually the word is, I want control of my time, my money, and my craft. And when I talk to some of these kids, when I've been involved in some of these organizations, these kids feel like they don't have control. They feel like they don't have control of their life. And unfortunately, that's when certain not so good behaviors can come about, because, or behaviors or habits can come about because it just gives them that ounce of control. And specifically, I'm talking, kind of the Chester County, Philadelphia region. They might join groups that they probably shouldn't join. They might try substances that they maybe not should try. They even harm themselves in some way, just to feel that ounce of control. And I think that makes entrepreneurship such an opening too, of you do have all control. You have all control over your time. You have all control over your money that you make. You all have all control of your craft. And it just depends on the creativity that you can foster and how you put your time. So I am partnering with an organization called Chester County Futures. They are an amazing organization that has evolved greatly over the past few years. I've been on committees with them, and they in the past they have been very focused on, okay, how do we get kids to college? How do we get these kids who, might have nothing, right? And how do we get them through middle school? How do we get them through high school? And how do we get them through college? And over the past few years, I think they've opened their mind of what post-grad can look like. And yes, of course, college is top of mind, but it doesn't always have to be, nor does it always make sense for some of these kids. So I'm partnering with Chester County Futures, and we are going to be hosting monthly workshops for the 2025-2026 school year. And these workshops are going to build on top of one another. And they're going to be led by really passionate, successful, altruistic mentors and business leaders in the Philadelphia region. These workshops will really guide the kids through the process of what it means to find a problem, find a solution that a business can solve. You can use a business to solve the solution, and what it means to grow a passionate and profitable business and brand. I already created a curriculum for this, and really it's going to have, each workshop is going to have kind of a short presentation or seminar from the subject matter expert or the mentor that is going to be, going through that topic that day. And then it's going to be workshop style. So one of the workshops is going to be all about marketing and corporate social responsibility. So I'm going to have one of the mentors that I almost have signed on come in and say, here's everything about marketing. Here's my role as the department head of corporate social responsibility at X large company. And this is why it's so important. Here's how you think about it. And then the second half of the workshop will be, that mentor helping these kids build out, what their marketing and corporate social responsibility plan can be for their business. And really the ultimate goal of this is from beginning to end, each of these workshops is going to build on top of one another to help these kids find a business idea, develop it out, and honestly have it basically ready to launch by the end of the 9 months. I think this is something that I'm really passionate about. I think it's something that is only going to help generationally our community. It's going to help these kids find something that they're really passionate about. It's going to help unlock their brain and kind of change their mindset about what it means to be an entrepreneur, how you have to use your resources much more wisely, how you have to just be creative all the time, how you have to change your brain and be able to talk to people, make relationships with people. And I think the skills are, they can relate to so many other things personally, professionally in your life, but I just want more small businesses. I want more small businesses to support each other, and I want today's youth, especially those who are so primed to start one, to feel like it's even an option for them. So my ask, I'm currently looking for mentors who'd be interested you know, in supporting these kids. Some thoughts about time commitment. So really, we're only asking the mentors to attend a minimum of 3 sessions, 3 workshops. One is going to be the first one, kind of the intro, the opening. Second one is going to be, their seminar that they are hosting, their workshop. And the third one is going to be the final presentation, and where the kids will present their business idea, their marketing strategy, their go-to-market strategy. And, on top of that, I think there's uh, mentorship has always been a passion of mine. And I think what leads up to that is what creates that long lasting impact. So I'm not saying that we're going to have one-to-one mentors, right? Because especially in this kind of situation, it doesn't always make sense to do that inorganically. If I say like student A, you're going to be you're going to be the mentee of, mentor A. That just doesn't work. It's not organic. So I'm working with Chester County Futures on ways to maybe encourage a more organic approach to that mentor-mentee relationship. But I see this working in a few different ways. One, the base, if you want someone to really master a skill or really master a concept, the base idea of that is teaching them. It's talking to them, it's teaching them how to do something, right? Second is coaching, right? So that's kind of, okay, I taught you how to do this. Now let's work together on actually implementing it. So that's where the seminar and the workshop go hand in hand in one of those single sessions. But the third thing is management, and that's I think where the mentorship comes from. And what I'm hoping is that there can be some really beautiful organic mentor-mentee relationships that come out of this. That if someone has questions about the how to create a business plan, and the mentor that's in charge of that, if they're open to having a Zoom call with one of these kids that has a question, like that could kind of spark a more organic relationship than, again, just like saying you go with this person, you go with this person. So honestly, the time commitment of these mentors are going to be incredibly low, but it's going to have generational impact for these kids, and not just these kids, but our community and our business community. If mentorship, please send this to someone that you think would be a really great mentor. And the other thing we're looking at potentially is sponsorships. That hasn't really been something that I was really focused on, but I have been advised that I should be, seeing if there are any sponsorship opportunities for this. So if your business, your brand, they want to, you guys want to support something like this in our community, please let me know. But that's what One Day is, and I'm really excited about it. I'm excited to launch this with Chester County Futures in September, and I'll keep posting about it. And I hope you guys come along for the ride. If you have any questions, please let me know. But it's going to really check off a few boxes that are near and dear to my heart. Appreciate you guys. It's kind of a weird episode, but if you liked it, please follow, please rate and review. I love that. Love seeing those come in, and stay tuned next week.